I had no idea how much a pet visit would cost on average when I signed up for pet insurance, and thank God I did. It can be insanely expensive. Hey all, welcome back to my channel where I talk about how to achieve financial stability and independence on a regular salary. Today I would like to talk to you about pet health insurance. Just like with humans, sometimes incidents and illnesses happen, and you can be stuck with a very expensive vet bill, which can deplete your emergency savings and set you back from achieving your financial goals. So, today we'll talk about how to prevent this from happening. I think that anyone who's serious about their financial stability has to think about having pet health insurance, and I'll explain why. So I'm a huge proponent of having a pet health insurance if you have a pet, just because I believe in smart financial management and thinking ahead, planning for possible unexpected expenses. So how does this work? In a nutshell, it works just the same way it does for humans. You pay monthly premium and then insurance covers part of the cost when your pet gets injured or sick. But there are a few major differences I would like to talk about. First of all, there are three major ways to insure your pet. There's accident only insurance, there's accident and illness insurance, which I think is the most popular option, and there are also wellness add ons for yearly checkups, flea medication, vaccines, etc. It's important to note that pre existing conditions are most likely not covered. This is the case for a lot of policies, so I would advise you to check this right away, but do not be surprised if it's not covered. One caveat is when you have a curable pre-existing condition, which means that if your pet's illness was cured and did not reoccur in the next 12 months, you could be covered for this type of illness. However, again, check your policy for this particular coverage. I decided to get pet health insurance because my cat was getting older and I thought it would be nice to have in case if something happens because I've heard of enormous bills that people have to pay when something unexpected occurs. So I decided to go for this insurance provider. It seemed very easy and straightforward and also pretty inexpensive the first year when I signed up. And my initial premium was $36. However, in the next year, it went up to 56. I believe that the fact that he has aged plays a role, or maybe there were other factors that affected this price increase. Just a regular checkup when my pet injured his back leg cost me about 1,000. The first time I had to use insurance, I paid about $980. I had a deductible of $250, and the rest was covered by insurance, 80%, and 20% was my contribution towards this payment. Also, keep in mind that you have to pay on the spot. Usually, when you visit the vet, that's when you have to pay, and then you deal with pet health insurance company to reimburse your 80%. Usually, dogs are a little bit more expensive to insure because they go outside and there's a lot of possibilities to get an injury or get sick from something when your pet is going outside. For cats, it's a little bit less. So in my case, it was $36 to begin with, but national average is about $20 to $40. And for dogs, you're looking at $30 to $70. Of course, what matters the most is the age of your pet. So the younger pets usually have cheaper premiums just because they're healthy and there are less chances of something going really wrong and being very expensive. Another thing that will affect your premium is the breed. Usually, pure breed animals are more expensive to insure just because they have some genetic predisposition towards certain illnesses. For example, dachshunds might have a higher chance of spinal injuries. Golden retrievers have problems with back legs, as far as I know, etc. So, usually, pure breed would cost you more to insure. Another factor is location. Obviously, in a big city, it could be more expensive. For example, in my very high cost of living area in New York, Vet visits are definitely quite expensive, and it's a struggle to find a vet that's inexpensive and also qualified and is able to help your pet if something happens. And of course, costs will go up as your pet ages. I have experienced it myself. So, from the first year when I was paying $36 a month, my insurance plan jumped to about $56. So, it's a huge increase. And I'm assuming this was due to him being at this borderline age when more illnesses are likely to happen, but it could have been other factors that are not related to my pet's age. In the second year, about 2 months into my new policy, where I was paying $56 per month, I encountered this issue with my pet's back legs, and the issue progressed. So, from just limping on one side, he became paralyzed on one side, and then eventually on both back legs. So, that took a lot of visits to different vets, different clinics, a lot of testing, medication, just Uber rides to get there were also quite expensive, which is not covered, of course, by health insurance. But you have to consider all those costs that come with an illness or injury. So by the time my pet got sick, I paid just slightly over $500 in total for my premium. However, and I had no idea this was coming, the bills that I had to pay for his treatments and diagnostics were just out of this world. I'm talking about $6,000 MRIs, $5,000 CT scan, other testing, which is also expensive, and it all adds up at the end of the day. I've made a separate video in which I discuss all the expenses that I had to incur due to my pet's illness. And here's my little baby. Here's the one who got sick. And here's the reason why I'm making this video, so others could learn from my experience and hopefully save a lot of money and save a lot of stress from happening if something like this happens to your pet. So let's see the risks versus value when you get pet health insurance. If your pet is young, your policy is probably not that expensive. Let's say $30 or $35, which would come up to about $400 per year. If nothing happens during this year, you will lose this money. But of course, if you have unexpected illness or accident, just one vet visit, just one initial visit would cost you, in my case, it cost me about $900 just to go and check what's going on with him, which included blood tests, x-rays, doctor's fee, and medication. So right there, my insurance paid for itself just in one visit. But this was not the end of my story, so watch the other video and you'll learn the whole journey we went through with that illness that my poor baby got. What I really want you to think about is how a vet bill would affect your overall finances. If you're trying to build financial stability, if you're trying to save for the future, if you want to retire early, it's imperative to have pet health insurance. Just one vet visit can deplete your emergency savings, and this is very significant. It's not only taken away from your future financial stability, but it's also very stressful. So think about all the stress you want to avoid and all the risks you do not want to take with your finances. So this is why I think that for a lot of people, pet health insurance is such a great option that will preserve their financial and mental well-being. And as my channel addresses personal finance, I'm looking at it in the framework of your overall financial health and stability. And I just want to urge anyone who has a pet, please look into health insurance for your pet. It's very, very important, and it can save you a lot of stress down the road. Do not let a huge unexpected vet bill wreck your finances. Take care of it now and stay safe and preserve your peace of mind. So, who benefits the most from having pet health insurance? So, first of all, if you have a pure breed animal, it's definitely a good idea. A lot of time, pure breeds get genetic diseases, and it's almost guaranteed that at some point in their lives, they will encounter it. Could be spinal issues, issues with joints, etc. Other group of people who could benefit from pet health insurance is people who do not have a lot of emergency funds saved up. It's very difficult to come up with a lump sum of money to spend on the vet, diagnostics, and medication. And pet insurance helps you to manage those costs. It will still cost you some money, but let's say instead of $1,000, it would cost you 200, which is a huge difference. If you want to have predictable costs every month instead of one surprise lump sum during the year, it's also a very good idea to have pet health insurance. I have to say, from my own example, it felt like a lot paying first my deductible, which is 250 on my first vet visit. So let's say roughly it was around 1,000. I paid 250 out of pocket. And on top of this, I also had to pay 20% of that remaining $750. So let's say another $150. So that brings my total to about $400 for just that first vet visit. For the next visit, I didn't have any deductibles anymore. I just had to pay the 20% that is a part of my plan. Just to summarize your potential expenses, think about my case. If I paid about $30 per year, my total cost of having pet health insurance for Coquito would have been $2,000-$3,000 for his entire lifetime. He actually never had to go to the vet. He was never sick. He was always just fine. And this year was the first time I had to bring him to a hospital. I ended up paying much more than those $2,000-$3,000 that I would have paid if I had pet health insurance from his birth. And as I said, I only paid about $500 by the time the trouble started. And my bills were just thousands of dollars. Again, it was just outrageously expensive, and I was not prepared for it at all. Luckily, I had an emergency fund, and it was not an issue to cover this 20% that I was liable for. But at the same time, if I had to pay all of it out of pocket, that would be just devastating to my savings. However, there's some cases in which having pet health insurance is not really a great option. And usually it's where you have an older pet, which is very expensive to insure. And you also understand that a lot of his pre-existing conditions won't be covered unless, as I mentioned earlier, it's a curable condition, and some health insurances allow for it to be covered again if it was not treated within 12 months after your pet healed. So for older pets, it's probably making more sense to just put this money on the side, put $50, $60 on the side each month, or more if you can. However, just be aware that your bill will likely be higher than what you're saving. This is just to offset some portion of this cost, but be prepared for paying thousands if something serious happens. I would advise you first to compare multiple. In my case, I went with the cheapest and seemingly easiest option, and my initial experience with them was quite good. It looks like AI takes care of smaller claims, so it's fast and you get money pretty much instantly. But as the bills kept on going up and I kept on coming back to the doctors and got more testing done, my case was put in review, so now getting reimbursed takes a lot longer. Just be aware that it could take up to 3-4 weeks in some cases to get reimbursed. Check reimbursement rates. This is very important. And from my own research, I saw that a lot of companies offer 80% reimbursement rate. It seems to be the most common. There are also companies that offer 90% reimbursement rate. Usually those premiums will be a little bit higher just because they give you more in case if something happens. So look out for those and see what makes more sense to you. Find a balance that works for your particular case and your budget. Another very important thing, check for all the deductibles and all the fine print. So in my case, I knew I had $250 deductible, and I was okay with that. It seemed like a reasonable amount, given that vet bills can be thousands of dollars. On the other hand, you have to be very careful checking the fine print, which tells you how much your insurance will cover in total. In my case, my limit is 20,000. So if my expenses are higher than 20,000 within this given year, I will have to cover everything above 20,000 from pocket. Also check what kind of testing is covered, if vaccines are covered. A lot of time, if you're just getting a basic package, vaccines, checkups, and just routine preventive testing won't be covered. And watch out for this when you file your claim. I did have an issue filing a claim when my pet had certain tests done to check for a disease, and they just flagged it as preventive care. And it took me weeks to get a hold of somebody to explain to them that it's not preventive. He's already sick and he tested positive on this test. Watch out for this as well. Review all your claims. Sometimes they can just reject it for the wrong reason. So you're not stuck with something that's supposed to be covered, but they refuse to cover it because of an error. And I've also heard that it's beneficial to enroll your pet while they're still young. This way you can potentially save money on renewing your policy. However, in my case, it didn't work. I only had my policy for 1 year when they renewed it at almost the double of initial cost. I'm not sure if this is true because in my case, I had an older pet, and when they renewed the plan, it went up by almost 100%. So each case is different. If you have a younger pet, you will probably face lower increases than I did in my case. So, is pet health insurance worth it? I would say absolutely. From my personal experience, it cannot be understated. I live in a very high cost of living area. And if you're in the same type of expensive area, I believe that will be beneficial for you as well. However, if your local vet is very inexpensive, maybe just putting money on the side would work best for you. What I would suggest is calling in to a couple of vet offices in the area and asking them for their rates. So check the rates for blood tests, x-rays, doctor visits, vaccination. This way you can compare the costs between different providers, and you can also figure out if you really need that health insurance. It's absolutely unlikely in my case, in my area, but if you live in a cheaper place, you might be just fine paying out of pocket. For me, pet health insurance is not only an investment, but it's also peace of mind. So, yes, both thumbs up. Having a pet health insurance will save you a lot of stress down the road. So, go ahead and find your provider, sign up, and let me know how it goes. Also, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments if you prefer to pay out of pocket or if you have health insurance. And let me know what works best for you. If you had any unexpected expenses or if you had some difficulties dealing with your health insurance, let me know in the comments. I hope that your pets stay healthy and happy, and you can also save some money while taking care of them. Till next one, bye. Bye.